Hi, welcome back, everybody. My name is Lindsay. This is Linda's Investings, and every so often I bring you a guest from my school community. This is Mr. Brannan, and I met him through my community. He's doing something interesting in real estate, build to rent. But before we get into that, I'll let him introduce yourself. Hi, Brannan.
Hey, how are you? Yes, I'm here in Texas and have grown up in a family of entrepreneurs. So I've seen my family own a business, and then I went into doing that over the years. Even in my 20s, I had some small businesses that taught me a lot. And then as I got older, I went into a regular bank job. I was a vice president of commercial lending. Then went into starting a couple of businesses and recently sold one last July.
Awesome. So you sold your business. Was that real estate related?
It was. So I wanted to stay in real estate. So I went into sales and then built a large team. And then eventually I sold that team. But before I did that, I'd opened up a property management company I'm now about 7, 8 years into it. And at some point, I may sell that business too.
Mhm. So you come from a conventional lending, right?
Right.
Background. And then so when you are a broker or when you're learning about this like product loans and working in sales, how do you do change that, I guess, thinking from like, oh, I'm on the lending part, I need to be in the action part, which is that buying part.
Yeah, I got to interview quite a bit of the people in our area that had lots of, they're very wealthy people. Sorry. And what I noticed was they were all business owners that I was lending to, but most, if not all, they either made their money in real estate or they began to keep their money in real estate. Even if they had a business, they began moving some of that revenue into owning real estate and long-term assets. So that was the big aha is I don't want to be the people making the money are not the ones lending the money. Yes, they make money, but the ones that were really making long-term wealth and great money were the people that own real estate assets. So I knew that at some point I was going to get into the real estate world. And at first I did it through sales. We had sold another business. This was a family business. This was back in 2010. So think back to 2010, was anybody hiring? Nobody was hiring. And so I was thinking, what am I going to do? And I thought about real estate and what I had seen coming from the banking world and the lending world. I think I decided to get into real estate, learning that real estate market that much more. So I got into it in late 2010 and I said, well, if I can learn how to make it in this tough market, if I can make it when it's tough, man, it's going to be easy, much easier when it gets better. And so I made a decision even when I got into that. I named the company Potts Realty Group with the vision of building a large team. I also made the decision I would absolutely never look at, back then it was monster.com when you were looking for places to work. I said, I will not look at it. I'm going to make it. I even told my wife, I'm going to make it. And if I don't, I'm going to go down swinging because I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it. And there was times I would literally be pacing the floor thinking, why can't I get these properties to sell? What am I doing wrong? And when you're kind of backed into a corner, you're able to see how to make it. When you have no other options but to succeed, you figure it out. And that was 2011, 2012. It started getting better in 2013 and going forward, and end up building a team where at one point, we were selling about 250 homes a year. So I had a large team, a big staff, and then last year I sold that real estate business in July of 24. But before that, I began to move some of my money in that real estate team began building out real estate, started in 2020, and began moving into buying some properties to build on. But I opened up a property management company in 2017 because I wanted to have a company. I didn't want to manage the properties. I wanted to have a company that managed those properties. So I funded that business in 2017 and began funding real estate in 2020. So this wasn't just instant, all this happened at once. It was a plan over a few years. And then eventually that property management company became large. And now I've got three people working in that company, and we're still growing, managing now 250 doors. I wish though I could say those were all mine. It's very small percentage are mine. I've got 12 doors myself now, but have that company and hired somebody with expertise. She had been in the business 17 years to manage that part of the business while I went to look at acquiring more properties. So that's kind of a little bit of a nutshell of what I've done.
Yeah, and it seems like you've become very great at building teams from the ground up. And
Oh, it has its challenges. I've learned a lot. Don't think it's been perfect.
yes, like every business starting from scratch. But I guess like I wanna find out because I am a W-2 employee. Majority of school members are W-2 employee, and growing up, we never had that like entrepreneurship spirit and like the drive to go and take it in a way it's like taking all the risk yourself, right? When you start a new company. So you went from like sales, who was already successful, to property management, and then you said, I made sure I got the team. Is that how you start a company, I guess?
What I'm usually doing in the sales team, I did it all.
Mhm.
I was the I was the assistant. I was the doing all the paperwork. I was doing the front end sales. I was learning every aspect of it, but then began to realize, every one of us have different talents. We're good at certain things. We might have the intelligence to do the other parts, but it's just not our natural. And so I did them all so I could learn it and what the good practices were to do it well, and then began to hire my weaknesses. I believe in it. I'm not intimidated of hiring somebody that's way better than me at maybe the paperwork and setting up the systems. And maybe it's doing from the real estate sales, it was the buyer side. I wasn't very good and I got very impatient with buyers. That just wasn't my natural. And I realized I was good at the listing side, but I wasn't good at the buyer side. And at that point, my wife came in and she was really good. Honestly, she's better than me. I'm just going to be honest. She genuinely is better than me. She's a very well-rounded person, and those are hard to find. Those are rare that are good at everything. She was good at paperwork and systems. She was good with connecting with listing people. She was good and very patient and connected well with buyers. But she took over the buyer side at that point. And then going into the property management, I had developed a big enough business that I had decided I can handle the front end sales, which is what I was good at, is the front end sales part of bringing in new owners. I could connect with the owners. And then I hired a property manager because I didn't know it at all. But I had enough revenue from the sales side to fund that business. It was unprofitable for 2 years, but I'd built up enough revenue. I was funding it as I was growing the doors to getting it to break even and then going forward. And now all I do is really manage the big picture. I'm good at big picture and seeing the parts, the moving parts, where our deficiencies are. I still do the sales because it doesn't even feel like work to me. I absolutely love the front end sales, but I'm not good at all the details after that. And I'll tell them, when I'm doing it, you don't want to make it a handoff position. So I call it, I want to phrase it when I'm talking to somebody is a hand up. And so I sell the next person. And I'll say a lot of times, hey, you don't want me handling your property management. I'm going to get you to the expert that Christy is excellent at property management. She's been in the business now 19 years. She knows it better than me. I'm talking to you. I understand it owner to owner, what we're all looking for. So I'm trying to get them, I'm trying to connect as a peer even though I'm the owner and broker of the company, I'm trying to connect where we're right here, owner to owner, that I'm saying, hey, I hired Christy to manage mine too. I trust her with my properties. That's
Mhm.
why I hired her. And so it's really a hand up. I'm not saying, oh, I can't handle it. I'm going to send you over to her. I'm saying, hey, you want to talk to her. She's the expert. So it's a hand up. I do the same thing that now I've got Mindy in the business. She's our maintenance coordinator. And I say, hey, she's excellent at it. She's thorough in following up and following through. You'll be talking to her when it comes to maintenance. You can trust her. Heck, I trust her handling mine. So it's
Mhm.
really of a hand up type of way. I've built that team and I know where my strengths are. It's really the front end initial sale. I call it catch, like fishing. I can catch it, but I need somebody else to clean it.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
can bring them in at that front end piece and then I send them to the other team. And now have a new assistant manager that I'm training that has more expertise in that detail part that I'm not good at. So I really know my strengths and I hire experts around me that fill the gaps in me. That's
Mhm.
really what I'm doing. I'm filling the gaps in my personality to build out a well-rounded team. And I'm also looking at personalities. I'm looking at different personality traits because a good, healthy company, they can't all be you. They can't all be me because then we're going to have a lot of gaps. So I'm looking for personalities even to blend where I'm fitting. If you're taking the DISC personality profile, that's what a lot of people know is that D, I, S, and C. I'm filling all those, though there's more personalities than just four. There's lots of different personalities, but I'm filling my gaps.
Well, it seems like you've built up that hiring skill and like looking for what's missing, what the company is missing right now, and that's great. So moving to real estate, do you have 12 doors right now? How, tell me about that first deal that you bought.
Yeah, so the reason I got into the build to rent, I grew up in a family, my parents built every one of their houses. So I saw that even as a young kid, and I really loved it. And I loved my mom did all the design work on the house. She actually did some interior design for people. I was learning it passively. I didn't know it, but I really enjoyed that. And so we built three houses, and I always seemed to build them with equity. They were always worth more than what it cost me to build. And I thought, I enjoyed the process. Not everybody does, but I really enjoy that process. Even with the challenges it brings, you get that reward of saying, hey, I started with just dirt and now see this big house and see this big property. And so I did that. The first one I did, it was not a home run. It was, I call it from a baseball analogy, it was a single or double. I just jumped in. I had a property presented to me and I chose to buy it. It was zoned multifamily. I saw that opportunity and we built a fourplex from the beginning, not a single family. We jumped in pretty large and built a fourplex. Now the way I build them now, I learned some lessons from that. It's still we to this day we still own it. It finished up in 21. Actually, it was July of 21, so it's hitting its 4 year mark next month. Built it one on top of the other. And I think that's okay, but I learned the lessons of soundproofing. I did every soundproofing I could do, but we still have a lot of noise complaints. So going forward, I took that lesson from that fourplex and now I build them more like the townhouse style, where they're side by side and we have less turnover, less complaints, aesthetically looks well. I'm even learning from that. How do I design the floor plans with less hallway space? So each one, if I took a floor plan, they say by the third time you build it, you've now perfected it. And I would agree with that. I'm building some single families right now, and I'm on my third build of that same floor plan. And each time I tweaked it a little bit because I saw some imperfections, little things you could tweak to make it better. And I think now to the third build, I have it dialed in almost perfectly of exactly the feel, the flow, the look, everything. So each time I'm learning, but I'm able to build them usually with about 20% equity. So then I'm getting all this built in equity that didn't cost me any money, which helps build our wealth for our family that much faster and putting less money down.
Mhm. And then you're getting a new construction.
And then we're getting brand new, so we have less issues for many years to come.
Yes, yes. So how does the process go? You bought a piece of land for your first property. You get an architect, you draw out the plans, you do dirt testing. Is that how it goes? Or am I?
Yeah, you do. So, well, usually the hardest part is, I think the hardest part is absolutely finding the land. And so I'm now a few years in, I'm trying to stay ahead of it, almost where I land bank for a couple of years because I've got to get my projects in line. And so it's getting that land, but then also finding a builder you can trust. I've been through one. I've got now my builder now that I can see me finishing my career with him. And we've developed a great partnership and relationship. I think that finding the land and then finding the builder. And a lot of times in these communities, there's a builder network. There might be a builders association that you could go to. And the big builders, of course, are not the ones. You're looking for a builder that maybe is a little smaller. They're building 5 to 10 properties a year at most. That's a lot of those builders that you can get a good working relationship where you're both getting a lot out of it, where you're starting to work with them and you're building that trust. He is a cost plus, where he's doing the actual cost of whatever contractor. He's got his list of good contractors that have good pricing, that he's charging just that cost plus maybe a 10 or 12 or 15%. We've gotten it now down to, we have a very limited contract where we've been building now for a while, where he just gets his invoice done, and he'll invoice me maybe once every couple of weeks after the work's done. He details out with the cost the invoices from his contractors, so I can see them, and then he adds his markup. But he's a good one, and you want to find a builder that's willing to save you money, not just inflate the price so that he makes more or she makes more. He's been able to, sometimes he'll see the price on some new project and he's like, yeah, that's a little high. Let me see if I can get another bid. He's really good. We've built that trust. I know he's trying to find the best price possible that saves me money and making me willing to keep using him as a builder.
Yeah, it really streamlines the process if he's working for you. So you talked about finding the land. What do you look for on a plot if you're trying to look for?
Right now, in my metric, now this is here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm trying to keep my lot cost between 15 and $20,000 a door. That's where I know my numbers work based off the rents I get here. So that's the metrics I'm using in my market. And it's becoming an increasing challenge because rents have kind of stayed stable over the last 2 years. So I'm having to keep that number. Now rents go up depending on build costs. I might be able to go up a little bit, but that's where I'm at now. When I first started buying them, I could get land at $10,000 a door. Now it's pushing 15 to 20, but I'm still able to get the rents. So if I'm looking for single family, I'm looking for older subdivisions that still have a lot of lots available because that's old baked in costs from laying the utilities. So these are infill lots with water, sewer. Sometimes I'm looking at lots even right now for septic because it's getting challenged. There's a big subdivision I'm looking at right now that I've built a few. It's getting more of a challenge to find one that are sewer lots, but I'm backing out the cost of that sewer tap or that sewer tap and adding in the cost of what it would take to get to put in a septic. So I'm trying to equalize those out. Okay, if I'm paying 20,000 for this lot that I can get sewer, the sewer tap's another 4 grand, that's 24 in. Okay, can I find a lot at 9,000 because it's going to cost me 15,000 for the septic? Well, then I'm getting to the same spot for that upfront cost. So I'm also looking in subdivisions where there's a high percentage of owner occupied. I would rather have homes if I'm doing some builds right now of just single family homes. I would love it, and I'm finding one that's well more than 50%. I think this subdivision looks to me around 70 to maybe 80+% of the homes are owner occupied, and only about 20-25% are rentals because they just seem to be better kept.
Hmm. Hmm.
More pride of ownership.
That's what you're looking for. And how big are these plots that you're buying?
These are really small. If you look at subdivisions now, all the new stuff, most of them are getting smaller and smaller and smaller lot size for the developer to make money. So these are extra small. These are 50 by 75s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So then you have the only way to build more square footage, you've got to go up. So
Yeah.
these are small backyards based off the setbacks and the side setbacks. I'm building between 13 and 1400 square foot houses on these, but I'm getting these lots at 15 to 20,000. They're renting. It's costing me this latest build. I'm actually going over there here after this interview. I finished up my last one and I was joking the other day. I tripled my days on market. It took
You-
me 10 days to rent this.
Oh,
The last one I rented in 3 days. This took 10 days. So I'm suffering through. Um,
that's amazing.
but I built this one for 212,000.
Mhm.
It appraised for 265,000. So you
Wow.
have all this built-in equity. I didn't have to pay for it.
Mhm.
That's to me what I call there's 4 levels of education levels of wealth. That's that mastery level of being able to find and create wealth out of thin air and cash flow tremendously. So this one built at 212,000, it rented for $2,125 a month. So it's creating cash flow of almost right at, or I'd say right at, it's just under $400 a month cash flow from the beginning,
Mhm.
but I've got that equity of about of 20% and the $400 a month equity over and above saving for repairs, maintenance, and capital expenditures. I'm including that in the expenses, but because it's brand new, I'm starting at 7% and then every other year adding 1%. Because usually you don't start having heavy repairs on a brand new property till about year 8, 9, or 10. So it's allowing me to build up that reserve over those first few years. I'm already starting with a huge reserve that I didn't have to fund. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times, if you're doing it right, you're buying an older property. The best practice, you better put at least a month of reserves back because you know you're going to have repairs early on, and then also saving up usually 15% of the tenant's rent, continuing to fund that reserve account. Well, I don't have to do that initial upfront 1 month. I'm just starting from the beginning because I have a builder's warranty for an entire year.
Right, right.
So I'm putting that money back and I'm building those reserves. And even to this day, I'm 4 years in. On the 12 units, I've only had to replace two dishwashers because they broke. I mean, you buy that many new appliances, some are not going to last super long, but that's it. That's the only repairs I've done. A little bit of touch-up paint and a couple of dishwashers in 4 years.
That's good. That's very good. So you're funding your deals, you're buying your plots cash, then you go to the bank and then you ask them for a construction loan.
Yeah, so I'm buying the lot. I'm paying cash up front for it. So I have that money in, but usually it's say 15 to $20,000. That's my cash in. Then I'm getting construction loans from a local community bank. I've got three banks that compete for my business, and they really do. Went to a bank the other day. He says the CEO of a bank that is traded on the NASDAQ says, "Hey, Brandon, come in here," asking for the business because he knows I'm a good operator. These are, $200,000 loan requests, or actually a little bit less, but they're competing. So I'm getting these banks. I've got a bank now that's doing 85% of appraised costs. So do
Hmm.
I have any money in it? No, I don't. Though I do. I put some in it. I'm intentional. I like to start it when I close on the completed project. I want to be at 70% loan to value. I think it's the right amount of loan that doesn't put the property in jeopardy. I have a path out if I were to sell. I would get cash at the closing table.
Right.
So I like to start at 70%. Plus, I want to retire here in the next 5 years. I want to retire at a 50% loan to value. So if I'm starting at 70, I'm going to get to 50% pretty quick. But they're giving me these loans, and so I'm able to build it. I'm only putting at the very end. Usually it appraises at about 80%. So then I only have to put 10% of my own money, and I'm saying 10% with the closing costs for the 30 and all of it. I'm putting in about $30,000 into a project, into one build, and that includes closing costs and me paying down with points to get a lower interest rate, 30,000 all in. And now I've got a property with a loan of about 190,000 on a $265,000
Mhm.
appraised house that cash flows almost $400 a door.
That's good. That's good. And how long is construction taking you for, let's say this?
Most of them 6 months to 9 months. It just depends on the time of year when I build. If it's a rainy season, it takes that much longer to get what's called dried in, where the roof's on, the shingles are on, the windows are in, where people can work on the inside even if it's raining. They
Mhm.
can still work on the project. So it
And then
just
I've never had a construction loan, but they have a drawing period, I assume.
they have a what?
Drawing period.
Yes, usually the loan is about a year. And the interest rate's a little higher than your permanent financing. I'm trying to make sure the draws are in the appropriate time because I calculate my build cost, including the interest carry and
Mhm.
the origination fee. So when I'm saying 212,000, that includes every cost from the
Associated.
acquisition of the lot all the way to the 30 year. I'm including every cost in there for that 212,000.
Amazing. So can you share the numbers on your best deal yet?
I think, man, these last couple have been my best. These single family homes, because you're maturing, you're getting better. That's why we tell everybody get into the game. You're not going to hit that home run the first one because you don't know everything you're seeing.
Hmm.
The last three, if I take my return on capital, have been the best. My last three single families, I'm getting above 14% cash on cash returns. Then the principal pay down's about 6 to 7% based off the interest rate. Then I've got the 20% equity in them.
Mhm.
Then I've got the tax savings. These latest returns, these last three doors that have finished in the last year, if you take the year one return, I'm hitting 212% return on my money year one on $30,000.
Awesome. That's crazy. Are you able to take the real estate professional status?
I am because I am in real
Oh,
estate.
you're also selling
Very
active
easy
sales.
to
Yeah,
be
right.
a real estate professional. It's what I do day in, day out.
Okay. Yeah, you're still doing that as a full-time job.
Yeah, and then so then I'm using cost segregation. I'm using that to basically the last 4 years. I've not paid income tax 2 of the last 4 years, period, on all my earnings.
Hmm.
So then I'm taking that tax. I'm not blowing it and spending it and having nothing for it. I'm taking that tax savings and I'm reinvesting it into these projects. So some of these projects, actually the one from a year ago was the tax savings, the 30,000 came from not paying income tax that previous year. That's what I used to build that property. Well, now I'm doing another cost segregation on it, and
Right.
then with the new bill that's out there right now, they're talking going back to 100%. So I'm going to continue to keep this engine running. So I'm only having right now saving up about $30,000 a project gets me a single family house that's a rental. I do have land banked. I've got another multifamily that I should be able to get a fourplex on that is planning to start that project fall of next year. Well, I have to put a little bit more down, so I'm actually taking a pause. I'm not going to be doing any new one, at least right at the moment. I know I want to this fall. I want to do another one, and I might. I'm not saying never, but I'm taking that pause to save up money for the next big fourplex that's next fall. I think I'm going to have to come up with about $80,000. So
Mm,
I'm working on that too. I'm saving that money, but some of that money this year for 2024, I should get a full refund of all my income tax. I'm going to be putting that in that account towards that fourplex to when I'll do another cost segregation and do it again for another year. But I'm now that engine, it's just rolling, you know? And so, but they're all, I mean, my oldest property's 4 years old.
right, right. Which is it seems fast already. 2020 feels like it was just just last year, but it wasn't. So how many doors is the goal?
The goal is 24, and there's a reason. I've listened to Coach Carson and I've thought through this. I think what I'm going to do is get to 24, keep them for a period of time, and then probably sell off four and pay off a few of my
Mhm.
properties so that I'm back down to 20, but I have a few properties that are owned free and clear. So I'm thinking now 10, 15 years down the road. I'm hoping to get to 24 in the next 3 years, 24 doors, then keep them and then sell off four to pay off, say, four properties so that it gain in cash flow, but then also further secures our financial wealth for the
Mhm.
long term for a couple of decades after that. And
Mhm.
thinking about my children, I plan to pass these down to them. I was talking to a friend on the way to the office here this morning. We are talking about succession planning that I'm putting in there. I'm planning to give these to my children, but I don't want them to squander them. So I do have them doing some work for us. They're learning it, they hear me teach about it. I have them come when I teach other people. I'm having
Mhm.
my kids hearing this. But I'm going to be when I'm passing them on if I were to buy 30, 40-year-old properties today, by the time I'm passing away, my wife and we're handing them 60-year-old properties. Well, we
Right.
know there's a lot more work
Made.
to be done. I thought through that when I did this, is one of the pieces I thought through. Well, now I'm going to be handing them properties that are maybe 30 years old. We're going to maintain them. I built them right. I built the foundations right. I did it. I did not do it on the cheap. I did this to hold them forever. So that when they're getting this inheritance, they're getting properties that are fairly young that can then give them wealth. Because I always think about, you're just going to understand my faith background. There is a scripture out there that says a wise man gives an inheritance for his children's children.
Mhm.
And I think about that. I said, I want to prep my wealth to impact my grandchildren. How do I do that? That's
Mhm.
just where I come from.
That's great. I mean, like generational wealth is what a lot of people in real estate is enter the market for. But I want to learn about what was the biggest lesson you have acquired since starting building to rent, about yourself, about anything that you experience.
Man, the biggest lesson, that's a good question. I get impatient because I want to grow faster. And I'm glad I chose this model because it forces me to be patient. I have to slow down because I can't build them fast enough
Mhm.
because it gives me about a 9 month window on the next project. Um, is looking for more lots quicker. I feel like sometimes right now I'm a little behind. I'm looking for 2, 3 years from now, I've got to find the land. And so I feel like I'm a little behind. I should have jumped on this a year ago. I think I could have found a couple of lots and really have my goal is I know I'm done when I have enough dirt to get to 24. And I've
Mhm.
still got more properties to find. And so I wish I would have started a year ago acquiring that land so that I have those. I've got enough land right now. I think I've got enough land to 17 doors.
Mhm.
So, so here, what is that? I've got 7 more doors to go. Enough dirt for 7 more doors, and that could be a multifamily, could be single family. So
Mhm.
that's why I wish I would have started a little earlier a year ago because land just gets more expensive by the day. Um, Getting on that.
Yeah, okay. Impatient then. It forces you to slow down. I think that's why Michael Sewer says he's not good with stocks because it's an emotional investor. So real estate in general, like transactions take so much longer. Just closing a deal, buying a deal, getting them adjusted, getting them normalized, stabilized. And then it forces you to sit down and like be present or be with it, right? So
Yeah, I'm a naturally, I feel time pressure a lot. I get anxious and I want to go into action. And this forces me against my natural personality to take time, slow down, do it right. So it's really prevented my personality
from
from
getting
making huge
away.
mistakes.
Right, from getting in the way of yourself.
Yes.
How did you find one rent at a time?
I think I was just searching online on YouTube and you see a lot of voices out there and I wanted a very balanced voice that is really trying to provide the right perspective and doesn't have an agenda. And I think Michael is excellent at that and will say when, hey, I missed it. And also I'm glad he says, "Hey, I got this right," because he has. I've listened to lots of voices in my life of people making some form of prediction, and I tell people all the time, "You've got to listen to this guy. He's been very accurate. It's amazingly accurate. Yes, he makes a few mistakes. It's impossible not to when you're predicting the future, but he's been more accurate than most." Even in the regular media world, he is more accurate than most. And so I listen to that daily financial news. It gives me a good reading on real estate from all perspectives. So I think I found him 3 years ago, and he gave me predictions. I knew what was going to happen in real estate. I don't know if I ever told him. He helped me sell my business because I knew when the right moment was to sell. And it was somewhat from his perspective. I knew it was time to sell before it got really difficult where we had a depression in transactions. I already knew it ahead of time because he was predicting it.
Right. Because this year is looking not good.
It's tough.
Yeah. Okay, Brandon. On a positive note, what does your life look like in 2030, 5 years from now?
I see me retired, and that vision has changed of what that retirement looks like. You're doing a channel, I'm doing a channel. We hadn't mentioned it. Mine's B2R Investing and Financial Talk, but I'm doing this to make an impact. And I see my retirement doing more of this, maybe doing some more speaking. I'm getting some speaking engagements, and I'm going out there doing it not to make money. That is not my desire for this channel. It's making an impact and sharing my 30 years from I started out working for a CPA, a brilliant CPA, to a stockbroker, to a CFO, to a VP of commercial finance, to real estate and investing. I had a 30-year career of finance, and I'm trying to help people not make mistakes that I still made, even in the industry. I still made them. The rewards are the compliments and the comments and the emails of, man, I'm listening to your stuff. I'm learning so much. That is why I'm doing it. And I see that in retirement, still having, of course, the real estate, but doing more teaching.
That's so cool that you want to give back and then just like give advice to people that are trying to look to do this or
Yeah.
any information on your whole journey. Well, like he said, he's a B2R on YouTube and you can reach out to him. And it was such a nice pleasure to talk to you today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you for coming. I hope you come in the future.
Sounds good. Let's plan it.
I'll see you guys on my next video.
Bye.